Look at this table. It's been outside for the last year and it has seen some rough miles. It spent all of its life in Western Washington, which is a very wet and damp place. We're going to refresh this quite a bit. I'm going to sand it. I'm going to put a new product that I just found on it, and let's see how it does. Check in later. Okay, I'm back. I just sanded this with a rotary sander at with a sanding grit of 220. Came out okay, and to be fair, this is a very old table. It's actually 16 years old, and like I said, it's been through a lot. Now, I could have brought this right down to, bare wood, like you see, like right here. However, I really like the fact that the way I have it gives it a slightly distressed look. Much more rustic, less furniture-like, and more of a picnic table quality. So this wood is called Balau, B-A-L-A-W. I'm sorry, A-U, B-A-L-A-U, and it's a dense hardwood, very common to Malaysia, Indonesia. I believe the Philippines also has it, and it's kind of, to be honest, a replacement for teak. Teak has been kind of overly harvested and has caused the price for teak to go up. Balau is an excellent substitution for teak. In fact, a lot of people claim that it's stronger than teak, and therefore you can use a thinner wood, a thinner board, and achieve the same strength that you would out of a teak table or a teak board of something thicker. Now, here's the product I'm going to use to finish it. It's called Penofin, and it's, as you can see, a rosewood oil, and I've used it a little bit before, and I have some experience with it, but we're going to see how it does on this table. I have used it on decks, and it works really well. I'm a little hesitant to give it glowing reviews because it seems like in certain climates you may have to keep reapplying it every year, and that just might be the nature of the climate you're in. I have used it on my deck, and it looks beautiful the first year, and then you have to keep reapplying it. So let's see how it does on this table, and I'll check back in a little bit. And as you can see, this Penofin is specifically designed for hardwoods, and I believe that it's just, they do something to create more seepage into something with finer pores than like a softwood. They make a softwood version and a hardwood version. So let's see how we do, and we'll check back in a little bit. Okay, we're back. And before I finish, I just wanted to show some contrast. On the top of your screen, you see the unfinished and sanded boards. And as I pan down, or to the side, this is the finished side with the Penofin. Now, the Penofin is still wet, and I'm expecting to run a second and third coat on it. This will soak up very quickly, but you can see there's still signs of it still drying, and that will dull to a certain degree once it dries. So anyway, this gives you an idea of the contrast, and after a couple coats, we'll kind of form a conclusion, and I'll make my recommendations and my observations. Okay, so I've waited for the first coat to dry, and this right here is the first coat, and it's perfectly dry. In fact, the wood's warm because it's been out in the sun. And I've just applied a second coat to the rest of the table. As you can see there, there's a difference. So just applied it. The one thing I did want to mention, and I failed to mention it before, is that I'm using a little foam brush, and it works really well. They're disposable, and they probably cost 30 or 40 cents. It's a good way to go. And I feel like they give a very even coating with this finish. This rosewood oil is very loose, and I don't think it would lend itself very well to be applied with a brush. I just don't think that'd be a good application. The other thing you could use are those little pads, and those pads are they're a little more expensive than these brushes, or than these foam brushes, but they would work as well if you had one laying around. They work really well. I've used those pads to refinish hardwood floors, and that would definitely be the ticket. But you're using polyurethane, and that's a little less forgiving than this oil. So I really feel like using this inexpensive foam brush is definitely the way to go. Okay, well, almost done with coat 2. We'll be back, and I'll show you more on the last coat. So coat 2 has now been applied to the entire tabletop, and as you can see, it's really evened out the finish quite a bit. After the first coat dried, it was definitely more patchy. Some parts absorbed the oil better than other parts, and this definitely evened out the finish. It's really a beautiful table. It's really beautiful wood, and it's a little bit of a challenge for me to see because the day is so bright, and looking through the camera viewfinder, there's a ton of reflection and a ton of bleed out just because of the brightness of the sun and the lack of capabilities of my eyes, I guess. Anyway, I hope this comes out really good on the camera, but this is becoming quite a beautiful piece.
Hey Jeff, how's it going?
Hello world.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your table and how it's holding up?
So in some earlier episodes, I sanded it, stained it, and now it's been a month since we put our last application of stain on it, which was a rosewood oil called Penofin. So let's just share some observations and talk about a little bit what I was able to do with it, what I would have liked to have done, and the good, the bad, the ugly. So it's a nice rosewood oil stain, and as you can see, it's really beautiful. So I wound up putting 2 coats on it. I thought I'd put 3, but I put 2 coats on it, and I'll tell you why. What happened after the first coat? It was kind of patchy, so I put a second coat on it to smooth out the finish and let the wood absorb things more evenly. After the second coat, I noticed it didn't seem like it wanted to absorb anymore. In fact, it stayed tacky for a few days. Not necessarily wet, but just kind of tacky. And I was like, well, I'm not going to put any more on because obviously it's just going to sit on the surface and even remain more tacky until it completely dries. So we have 2 coats, and after a few days, the tackiness went away, and now it's just beautiful. I guess all things considered, I would rate this product, this Penofin product, probably a 4.25.
Out of what?
Out of 5.
Out of 5? Okay.
Out of 5. And I'd say I'm taking a 1/4 point off because it's expensive, and I'm going to take a half point off because I didn't like the tackiness, and you had to really wait for it to dry. Now, we're not talking about a humid condition that we've stayed in this in. We're talking about 90 to 95 degrees and about 20% humidity. So this is about as good as it gets for stain drying and finishing off. So 4.25 out of 5, very good. Actually, I don't know of a better product. So that's, if you know of anything, be happy to try it. Be happy to hear from you. That's it. Sesta out.